This is a call to action for collaboration. We're currently in a time of unprecedented global change, and we have an opportunity to unify on new levels. The information here is intended to help us do exactly that. It belongs to everyone on this planet. What will come of this will also be unprecedented, at least in recent history. Please help share this. Hi everybody. I am so elated to share this with you. I have been working on some math and physics for the past 6 years or so. About this time of year in 2014 is when I began really diving into it. It was actually following a near-death experience. So I need to start out by saying, I guess, that I don't have any background in math or physics other than what I've been doing for the past 6 years. So nothing formal. I had a career in retail management that was very successful, and then I got super sick starting in 2013. Began remembering things that I'd blocked out, basically a very disturbing and violent childhood. And as this began coming back to me, I started having seizures. They put me on a bunch of different medications. I ended up crossing over because I'm not good with medication. And when I returned, I began producing this mathematical physics. The caveat being that when I got really sick, I actually had to move in with somebody because I couldn't physically do life at the time, and still struggle a lot today with things that you wouldn't even consider thinking about doing. So that's been an adjustment, but I ended up in this apartment, and it was actually shown to me in a dream when I was a child, approximately 30 years prior and 2,000 miles away. So that was quite a surprise. As you can imagine, I was shocked. And as my memory of certain negative things in my childhood returned for me to heal, thankfully, so did memory of spirit. What I now understand was spirit telling me certain things while I was in class, specifically math class. And I tried to communicate them at the time to some of my teachers, and they basically just told me to forget it and that, it wasn't important or whatever, and so I did. And then when I blocked everything out intentionally from my childhood, I blocked that out too, and, following the dream, living in a place that was shown to me in that dream, I started retracing, after I got back from the near-death experience, some other things that Spirit had shown me, and it turned out to be something really significant. So behind me here is a really colorful image, and it's just our number line. But what I have discovered about our number line is that there's actually a code embedded within it in the quantities of prime numbers and composite numbers. And this code, when the number line is compressed together, creates geometry, symmetric geometry, that's algebraically bound and highly ordered. It shows that prime numbers are, unlike we currently think of, not mostly random. And it shows that they're bound by algebra and create this geometry. And when I pulled this through and was drawing it out, I could barely hold myself upright during this time, but I was standing back looking at it, weeping because it's beautiful. And I asked out loud, "What is this?" And the answer I received was, it's gravity. So that's big. And then I continued exploring it for the past few years, and I have a ton of information on it, of course, which I won't go into immediately, but I do plan on releasing it on my website, cosmicporch.com. Here is the website down at the bottom of this, and so I'm putting out a call to action for people who would like to collaborate on this work and explore it further. I do want to go into a little bit of the math basics behind this, so it grounds what's here, because visually that's a little bit overwhelming looking at the whole thing. And the range that we're looking at, starting at, well, the -1 and 0 are there, but technically 1. And this goes down to 587 toward the bottom, although I have a larger piece that goes a little bit more in depth as well. So let's take a look at some of the math basics behind this. And before we do get to that, I was given that it was gravity, and I also, within this process of exploring what's in the number line, have come to understand that this is actually the unified field. And it's in a super fundamental place just within our number line. So it's measurement. It's found on all levels of magnitude. And right now, there's a discrepancy between the laws of physics that govern large bodies like planets and galaxies, compared to what's seen happening at a quantum level, so super, subatomic and beyond. And this, because measurement, no matter if you're measuring in light years, like in the galaxy, or between galaxies, or if you're measuring on Planck length, which is the smallest unit of measurement in quantum theory, it's still going to be 1 Planck length or 1 light year. So this code that's embedded in our number line is scalable to all levels of magnitude, which makes it very exciting and kind of opens up the playing field to be able to look at how the large and the small connect. So I'm very excited to share this, and let's take a look at the math basics. You don't need any math background to understand what's here. Even if you have zero interest in math, and yes, I've been in your shoes, I promise you this is much larger, and the math basics are a great place to start in order to explore it. Knowing the difference between a prime and a composite number is the first step. Composite numbers, just as the name implies, are made up of more than one part. For example, there are 3 ways to create the number 12 through multiplication. 1 times 12, 2 times 6, and 3 times 4. So 12 is a composite. Composites can be evenly divided by any number used to create them. Prime numbers are only made up of one part. The only way primes can be created is by multiplying 1 times itself. For example, only 1 times 5 is 5. And because of that, 5's prime. Primes can only be evenly divided by 1. Here are the top 9 things you should know about this code within our number line. Prime partners, number 1. Something I discovered about primes is that while they occur independently, they actually function within a partnership. At each end of these arcs is a prime number. Together, those 2 numbers function as prime partners. Number 2. Prime partners follow the formula A plus C equals 2B. They are the A and the C in the formula. This works because prime partners are symmetric to center points. Surrounding center point 9, prime partners 7 and 11 sum to 18, and prime partners 5 and 13 also sum to 18, double the center point. Number 3. Threshold primes. These are the boundaries or the extent of the geometry. They act as bookends to it. Surrounding center point 9, 5 and 13 are the threshold primes. Surrounding 30, 13 and 47 are the threshold primes. The next external primes to these are not symmetric to those center points, and their sum is not double those center points. Looking at center point 9 again, for example, the next prime outside of it to the left is 3, and to the right is 17. Their sum is 20, which is not 18, and they are not symmetric to center point 9. The threshold primes separate pieces of geometry from each other. Number 4. Quantities of primes and composites. The numbers on line C represent quantities. The one underneath 5 represents 1 prime. The one underneath 6 represents 1 composite. The first 3 represents the 3 composites above it, 8, 9, and 10. Likewise, above the 5s on the line, there are 5 consecutive composites. Outside of numbers 2 and 3, which are both currently still considered primes, no other primes are known to occur consecutively. Because of this, prime numbers will always be a quantity of 1. The radii that makes these circles within our number line are created by consecutive composites. Prime numbers are the spacers between the radii. Number 5, palindromic code segments. Because of prime-partner symmetry, consecutive quantities of primes and composites surrounding a center point are palindromic. As the threshold primes separate these geometries, the quantities of primes and composites are also separated from line C. I call these individual packets palindromic code segments, or PCS. This is not only in regards to number, measurement, distance, spacetime, and gravity are also broken down into these palindromic code segments. Number 7, averages. The average of each radius and of each base code segment is its center point. Number 8, composite prime ratios. There are only odd quantities of composite numbers between primes. Since these form the radii heights are 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, etc. Each radii height containing the same quantity of consecutive composites has the same composite prime ratio. So all 3-count radii have the same ratio no matter if they're in the double digits or in the thousands. While numbers grow larger numerically the higher you go up the number line, all matching radii heights are united because they are the same ratio. Number 9, repeating code segments. Adding to the wider type quality of this code in our number line, 75% of the code segments occurring to 881 are repeated at least once by the time you reach 2000. When prime numbers are compacted together, they force the odd quantities of consecutive composites between them that were running horizontally into a vertical position. These can now be used as radii. Circling these radii forms the geometries we see in the number line. It's at this point the connection to the torus becomes visible. We can go into what that means more in the future, but you can see here, shown in yellow, that 3 spindle tori manifest surrounding center point 30. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at our number line with the prime numbers compacted. On the left-hand side, I have the primes listed so you can see each one of them. There's going to be some debate about the first few numbers that I've included in that group, but we can talk about that in the future. I also call this the pi line because of the obvious connection to pi. Let's see, in the center along the central axis of the number line, the radii center points are listed so you can see each median of each radius and then the median also of each piece of code per color. So the first code segment being purple, 6 is in the center point of that one, so that's the median number. So I would call that base code segment 6. But I don't want to get too detailed. I just want you guys to get a visual tour of what is embedded in our number line by code. This is meant to be viewed vertically, but I'm going to rotate the view horizontally so you can see more geometry at once on the screen. I'll do that in just a second. This is just so you can kind of become acquainted with the intended perspective of it. I did make a mistake on this part that is structurally similar to the spark gap. I didn't include 137 or its prime partner 193 in that pink diagonal segment. Those should be there. All right, let's take a look at a different perspective. Oh, wow, there we go. And I'll zoom out a little bit so we can get more of this in here. I'm just going to go back to the beginning and then we can take a look along the whole number line. I'm so excited to hear your thoughts on this. How incredible that this is in our number line. Truly amazing. By circling each number on the radii, interference patterns seen in holographs become apparent. That means it's more than likely that holography is a fundamental part of the nature of reality. Physicist James Gates, who studies string theory, which is also called M-theory, has said that what they're seeing, and this is a quote, in equations that describe our reality is computer code. It's also been said by a number of physicists as well that it's possible we're living in a simulated reality. The fundamental discovery arising from the geometries created by prime partners helps substantiate theories that suggest we live in a holographic universe. So what does this mean? Basically that primes are not only not random, but they occur with intelligent, intentional precision design. It's very likely we're going to be able to use primes to study both quantum mechanics and the cosmos, both quantum gravity and gravity. What's in our number line shows that space-time and gravity appear to be quantized or broken down into packets. For those packets to exist, and given the nature of a palindrome, a beginning section of code, geometry, and algebra must have a relationship with its end or future code, geometry, and algebra. For that to happen, it seems past, present, and future must coexist. So even on the edge of the infinite, where there's no outside point in which to measure to, these predetermined relationships are still present. In the future, I can't wait to get into how time appears to be rolled up space. So let's take a look at some of the applications for this information. The reason I put out this call to action for collaboration is because I want to build a team of people who could develop and then build a free energy device. This information contains the knowledge that we need to be able to accomplish that. There's also applications in anti-gravity propulsion, which is another very exciting area. It seems like what is in our number line is what physics currently calls the Higgs field, a field said to give mass to particles. And it seems that we'll be able to use what's in our number line, this code that's there, to study particle and antiparticle qualities, to study holography and interference patterns. Specifically with prime numbers, it seems that they directly relate to wave-particle duality. They occur individually as particles would, but function in a wave form with their prime partner. It seems like quantum entanglement, CPT symmetry, and uncertainty principle are other areas that would find footing there as well. We can use what's in our number line to compare what we currently understand about physics too. This unified field, if you can imagine viewing it through the perspective into the internal axis, that is when you actually see the infinite number line as one piece of geometry that consists of concentric nested spheres. At the end of this video, there is a clip of what that looks like. And it seems that we can use that perspective and the linear perspective to study special relativity, general relativity, cosmology, gravity, loop quantum gravity. There's a number of different constants, laws, and functions of math and physics that will also make themselves more clear to us as we begin to explore what's here. Encryption, quantum computing, and error-correcting code are other areas of application, and it seems like the relationship between the accelerating expansion of our universe and prime gaps would be an interesting space to look for a correlation, because as you go further up the number line, the gaps between prime numbers increasingly grow larger, and it seems like the two are relevant. Music, harmonics, and resonance are three areas that have a huge impact within our number line. It seems, since what is in our number line is the unified field, that it could also be used as a template to study consciousness. Humanity is experiencing a massive shift right now. We have been used to our third dimensional reality, and now we are expanding into other dimensional realities. The work that is within our number line can be used for healing. It can help us during our awakening process. It can help us remember that we are more than who we think we are. The mandalas can provide activations. You can meditate with them.
Ultimately, both individually and collectively, what's here will help us through this ascension process. The expansion and implementation of what's here will allow us to be brought up to speed with our galactic neighbors. This work is here to help prepare our consciousness for the fact that we're not alone in the universe. They are eager for us to receive this information. It's my honor to return what has always been yours. My name is Azra Wind, and I'm an ambassador for the Galactic Federation of Light.
These final images are different structures and functionalities relating to our number line. Just taking these visuals for right now. If you feel called to collaborate, you don't need to have a background in any of this. Starseeds may channel or just know the necessary information to complete parts of this work. I look forward to working with those of you who do have backgrounds in these areas also. The very